Clara James, had been married to Logan Carter, the most sought-after millionaire CEO in the city, for 3 years, and he treated her like she was invisible. In 3 years of marriage, they had barely exchanged 50 words. She was just part of an arrangement she didn't fully understand. Her humble family needed money, and the Carter family needed Chung Logan to marry. That was it. Clara James went downstairs to the kitchen at 600. Logan always had breakfast at 6:15, so she had 15 minutes to eat and disappear. That was the quiet, painful routine of every day. But that morning, something was different. Logan was already coming down the stairs. Clara quickly stood up to leave, but this time something unusual happened. Clara. The cold voice made her freeze in the doorway. She turned around slowly. Logan was standing there looking sharp in his perfect suit. His piercing blue eyes locked on her. It was the first time in months he had said her name. Yes, Clara answered, trying to hide the surprise in her voice. Do you have something suitable to wear to a corporate event? He asked flatly, like he was talking to an employee. Clara blinked confused. I don't understand. It's a simple question. Do you have a dress appropriate to accompany the CEO of A. Carter Enterprises to a gala dinner? Clara's heart started to race. In 3 years, she had never appeared in public with him, not even once. Why are you asking me that? She asked, finding a bit of courage she didn't know she had. Logan studied her for a moment, as if he was seeing her for the first time. Because you're coming with me tomorrow night, 700. But why? You never business reasons. He cut her off coldly. I need to appear as a stable family man. You are my wife, at least on paper. The words hit like knives. Clara felt her face flush with humiliation, but she held her head high. And if I don't want to go up? Logan raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her resistance. That's not an option. Clara, it's a duty. Duty. She repeated the word with bitterness, like everything else in my life, right? For a moment, something flickered across Logan's face. It almost looked like regret, but it was gone so fast that, Clara thought she imagined it. This event is important. International investors' million-dollar contracts. You need to look presentable. Clara lifted her chin with pride. Presentable? You don't even know who I am. Logan. In 3 years, you never bothered to find out. I know enough. You do. Clara stepped closer, her eyes glowing with defiance. Then tell me, what's my favorite color? What did I study? What do I do during the long hours you ignore me in this house? Logan stayed silent, clearly uncomfortable. That's what I thought. Clara sighed. I'll go to your event, Mr. Warm. Carter, but not because it's a duty. I'll go because after 3 years of being invisible, I'm curious to see this world you chose over me. She walked past him, leaving the kitchen with her head held high. Logan stood there watching her go up the stairs, and for the first time in 3 years, he truly saw the woman he had married. Clara had a graceful presence, even in simple clothes. There was strength in her movements, dignity in the way she carried herself. How had he never noticed that before upstairs? Clara sat on the bed, her heart racing. Tomorrow night, for the first time in 3 years, she would be seen publicly as Clara Carter. The question was she ready for what that might bring? Soulstories. Logan remained in the kitchen, feeling something strange in his chest. Why did her reaction affect him so deeply all of a sudden? Clara looked at herself in the mirror for the 10th time. The navy blue dress she had chosen was simple but elegant, the only one she owned that could work for a formal event. She had bought it years ago before the marriage, when she still had hope for a normal social life. At exactly 700, she came down the stairs. Logan was waiting in the living room, flawless in his black tuxedo. When he saw her, he paused for a moment, as if something about her had caught him off guard. "You look appropriate." That was all he said, but Clara noticed his eyes lingered on her longer than they needed to. The car took them to the Grand Beverly Hotel. During the whole ride, they stayed silent. Clara looked out the window, nervous. 3 years hidden, and now she would be introduced as the wife of the most powerful CEO in Los Angeles. "Remember," Logan said, as they arrived, "you are Clara Carter. Smile, be polite, and don't talk about business." "Got it. Be a pretty decoration and stay quiet." Clara replied sarcastically. Logan glanced at her quickly, something like amusement flashing in his eyes for just a second. The room was filled with important people, businessmen, investors, socialites. Clara felt like a walking fraud, but she held the elegant posture she had learned by watching her mother-in-law on rare occasions. Damian Cross, a tall, charming man, approached. "I finally get to meet the mysterious wife." Damian Cross. Logan said formally, "My wife, Clara." Damian took Clara's hand and kissed it politely. "It's a real pleasure." "Clara, I'm an international investor. I work with European markets. The pleasure is mine." Clara replied, naturally smiling, "Your wife is delightful, Logan, and much more beautiful than the photos do her justice." Clara was puzzled. What photos? She had never posed for any pictures as Jamon. Logan's wife. "Do you speak any other languages?" Clara. Damien asked, clearly interested. "Yes, I speak French and Spanish fluently." Damien's eyes lit up. "Magnifique. I've been looking for someone to help with a few contracts in South America. Would you be interested?" Logan cut in sharply. "Clara. Doesn't work. What a waste." Damien said, still looking at moi. "Clara. A smart and beautiful woman should use her talents." Clara felt a wave of gratitude. Finally, someone saw she had more to offer than just being decorative. "I'd love to help." Clara said, ignoring Logan's warning look. "Perfect. How about dinner tomorrow to go over the details?" Damien suggested. "She's busy." Logan replied coldly. "Actually, I'm not." Clara said, looking directly at Logan. "I'd be happy to have dinner with you, Mr. Cross." Damien smiled broadly. "Excellent. I'll pick you up at 8. As Damien walked away, Logan grabbed Clara's arm harder than necessary. "What do you think you're doing?" he hissed. "Having a civilized conversation, something you might want to try. You're not having dinner with him." Clara pulled away abruptly. "And why not? You said it yourself. I'm only your wife on paper, and on paper I can do what I want." Logan stared at her, something dangerous in his eyes. "You're my wife. Since when has that mattered to you for the rest of the evening?" Clara Schoen noticed that. Logan didn't leave her side, not even for a moment. Every time Damien Schoen came near, Logan showed up like a possessive bodyguard. It was strange and confusing. In the car on the way home, the tension was thick. "You're not having dinner with him," Logan said again. "Yes, I am," Clara replied calmly. "Why? Just to get under my skin." Clara turned to face him. "To remind myself that I'm a real person. Logan, someone with a mind skills value. Something you've completely forgotten." "I haven't forgotten anything." "No. Then tell me, when was the last time you really saw me not as an object or an obligation, but as a person?" Logan stayed silent, but Clara could see the tension in his jaw. "That's what I thought," she murmured. When they got home, Clara went straight to the bedroom, but before going in, she turned to Chow. Logan, who was still standing in the hallway. "Thanks for tonight. It was eye-opening." "Clara." His voice made her pause. "Yes." Logan hesitated, like he was about to say something important, but then shook his head. "Nothing. Good night." Clara entered the room but couldn't sleep. For the first time in 3 years, she had seen something different in Logan. Jealousy, possessiveness, whatever it was, it had clearly gotten to him in a way nothing else ever had. Across the hall, Logan was still awake, pacing. The image of Damien, looking at Clara, touching her hand, making her smile, was burned into his mind. And worst of all, he had felt an irrational fury, a primitive urge to push any man away from his wife. His wife. When had Clara actually become his wife in his mind, and not just a family obligation? Logan stopped at the window, confused by his own emotions. In one night, Clara had shaken 3 years of carefully built indifference. Logan woke up at 5:00 a.m. like always, but this time he couldn't go back to sleep. The image of Damien Cross, looking at Chief Clara, touching her hand, making her smile. It was burned into his mind like a hot brand. He got up and walked to the window. 3 years, 3 years of living with Aunt Clara under the same roof. And he had never felt this strange, unsettling feeling in his chest. It was like something primal had awakened inside him, something he couldn't control or understand. Why on earth did he care if another man was interested in Clara? He went down to the kitchen earlier than usual. 6 Javron. To his surprise, Clara was already there, sitting at the counter with a cup of coffee, looking out the window. She was wearing a simple robe, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders. Logan stopped at the doorway, really noticing her for the first time. How had he never realized she was beautiful, not just presentable like he had said yesterday, but truly beautiful? There was something about her profile, the gentle curve of her neck, the way the morning light lit up her face. "You're staring at me," Clara said without turning around, startling him. Logan cleared his throat, embarrassed to be caught. "Just checking if you're ready to cancel tonight's dinner." Clara turned to face him, and Logan felt a strange twist in his stomach when their eyes met. "I'm not canceling." "Why not? What does this man have to offer that's so important?" Clara tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "Attention, respect, the feeling that I matter." Her words cut deeper than some Logan expected. He stepped closer to the counter, standing nearer to her than he had in years. "You matter to you." Clara asked, her eyes shining with challenge. "Really?" "Because until last night, I might as well have been a ghost." Logan couldn't answer, because she was right. He had completely ignored her, treated her like part of the furniture. But now looking at her, he couldn't understand how he had been so blind. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Clara asked, her voice softer now, almost a whisper. "Like what?" "Like you're seeing me for the first time." Logan swallowed hard. "Maybe I am." The silence between them grew heavy, filled with something neither of them could name. Clara felt her heart beating faster. There was something different in Logan's eyes, an intensity she'd never seen before. "Logan," she began, but he cut her off. "Cancel the dinner." "Why?" Clara stood up now, face to face with him. "Give me a real reason." Logan struggled with the words. How could he explain that the idea of another man touching her, smiling at her, making her laugh, was driving him crazy? How could he admit that suddenly he cared after 3 years of pretending she didn't exist? "Because you're my wife," was all he managed to say. "On paper," Clara replied, though something had changed in her voice too. "On paper," Logan repeated, but his eyes said something completely different. They stood there for a moment, staring at each other, the tension between them like static in the air. Clara could feel the warmth of his body, the scent of his expensive cologne, mixed with something purely masculine. "You've changed," she murmured. "What do you mean yesterday you barely remembered my name? Today you're different." Logan ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I don't know what's happening to me." The raw honesty in his voice caught Clara off guard. It was the first time she had seen him, vulnerable, confused, human. "What did you feel last night when Damien was talking to me?" Logan looked at her for a long moment. Anger. An irrational anger, seeing him look at you like that. Jealousy, the word hung in the air between them. Logan didn't answer, but the look in his eyes gave him away. "Why?" Clara pressed. "Why do you suddenly care? I don't know." Logan burst out, stepping away from her. "I don't know why I suddenly can't get you out of my head. I don't know why the thought of you having dinner with another man is driving me insane." Clara was shocked by the passion in his voice. 3 years of coldness, and now this. "Logan, you want the truth?" He turned back to her, eyes shining with intensity. I spent the whole night thinking about how I've never really looked at you, about how I've been a fool for 3 years, about how another man saw in one night what I was blind to for 3 years. Clara's heart pounded. And what did he see? Logan stepped closer again, his eyes moving over her face like he was trying to memorize every detail. A smart woman, beautiful, strong, someone who deserves to be appreciated, not ignored. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. 3 years. Logan, I waited 3 years for any sign that you saw me as more than a burden. I know, and I hate myself for it. Then why now? Why only now? Logan hesitated, then said the hardest truth he had. Because seeing another man want you made me realize that I want you too, and that terrifies me. The words hung in the air between them, changing everything. Clara felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. I'm still having dinner with Damien tonight, she said, but her voice trembled. Why? Clara lifted her chin with determination. You had 3 years to notice me. Logan, 3 years to treat me like your real wife. You can't expect me to drop everything just because you finally decided I exist. With that, she walked past him and went upstairs, leaving. Logan, alone in the kitchen, more confused and unsettled than he had ever been in his life. Upstairs. Clara leaned against the bedroom door, her heart pounding. Everything had changed in just one morning. The question was, what would she do with this change? Clara looked at herself in the mirror one last time. She had chosen an emerald green dress that brought out her eyes, something she had kept for years, waiting for a special occasion. Today, she felt like she deserved to feel beautiful, to feel seen. It was 8 in the evening when the doorbell rang. Damien was right on time, just as he had promised. Clara came down the stairs with Grace carrying a small black purse. She didn't see Logan anywhere. He was probably locked in his office as usual. Clara, you look stunning, Damien said as he saw her offering his arm like a true gentleman. Thank you, Damien. I'm looking forward to our conversation. What? Clara didn't know was that Logan was watching from his office window, his hands clenched into fists as he saw another man take his wife out. The anger he felt was irrational, primal, and completely unfamiliar to him. Damien took her to one of the most exclusive restaurants in Beverly Hills. The setting was elegant, with soft lighting and classical music playing in the background. Clara felt like she had been transported to a world she had almost forgotten, a world where she was treated like a lady, not like someone invisible. So, Clara, Damien began after they ordered dinner. Tell me about yourself. Logan doesn't talk much about his personal life. Clara gave a small, sad smile. There's not much to tell. At least nothing. Logan would know. What do you mean, well? Clara paused, then decided to be honest. My husband and I were not exactly close. This is probably the first social dinner I've had in 3 years. Damien raised his eyebrows, surprised. That's hard to believe. A woman like you should be at every event in town. Clara gave a soft laugh. You're very kind, but the truth is, Logan prefers to keep our lives separate. What a shame. Damien murmured. Tell me about your background. Yesterday you mentioned you speak languages. Clara Mom's eyes lit up. Finally, someone interested in who she really was. I have a degree in business administration from UCLA. I speak French, Spanish, and Italian fluently. Before I got married, I worked for an international consulting firm. Damien leaned in, clearly impressed. That's amazing. What was your area of expertise, emerging markets and international negotiations? I helped American companies expand into Latin America. My goodness. Clara. You're exactly the kind of person I need for my projects in Argentina and Chile. I've got mining contracts that require someone with your knowledge. Clara felt a wave of satisfaction. How long had it been since she felt useful, valued for her skills? It would be wonderful to work again, she admitted. I miss using my mind for something meaningful. At that moment, Clara noticed a familiar figure entering the restaurant. Her blood ran cold. It was Kimmel Logan. He looked impeccable in a dark suit, but his expression was stormy. His blue eyes scanned the room until they landed on her, and Clara felt a chill when she saw the intensity in his gaze. Clara. Logan's deep voice cut into the conversation as he approached their table. Damien stood politely. And Logan. What a surprise to see you here. I'm sure it is. Logan replied coldly, his eyes locked on Chuck's. Clara. May I speak with my wife for a moment? Of course. Damien said, confused by the tension in the air. I'll step out for a minute. As soon as Bonton. Damien Shaw walked away. Logan sat in the empty chair, never taking his eyes off him. Clara, what are you doing here? Clara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The question is, what are you doing here? Having dinner like I said I would. Logan looked around the romantic setting. The candles, the soft music, the intimate atmosphere. This doesn't look like a business dinner. Clara lifted her chin defiantly. And how would you know? You've never taken me out to dinner. The words hit Logan like a punch. It was true. In 3 years of marriage, he had never taken her on a date, never shared a romantic meal with her. Clara. Logan began, his voice lower now. I didn't know you had a degree in business. Clara blinked, surprised. How do you know that I heard you two talking? You were spying on us. Logan had the decency to look embarrassed. Yes. And I realized there's a lot about you I never knew. 3 years. Logan. Clara said, her voice full of hurt. You had 3 years to ask to care. You speak 3 languages. Logan continued, as if listing discoveries. You worked in international consulting. You're an expert in emerging markets. And that surprises you completely. Logan admitted. I thought you were just what a simple girl your family picked out for you. A burden you had to carry. Logan stayed silent because that's exactly what he had thought. You never took the time to find out who I really am. Clara, went on, her voice rising. You never asked about my dreams, my ambitions, my fears. To you, I was just an inconvenient obligation. Clara. No, she cut him off. You don't get to show up now after 3 years of ignoring me and act like you suddenly care. Logan leaned forward, his eyes shining with something. Clara couldn't quite identify. But I do care more than I should, more than I understand. Why? 'Cause another man showed interest. Because you finally realized you might be losing something valuable. Yes. Logan admitted harshly. Exactly that. The brutal honesty of his answer left Clara speechless for a moment. At least you're honest, she murmured. Damien came back to the table, clearly sensing the tension. Everything all right here? Logan stood up, but his eyes stayed on Chante Clara, just saying goodbye. Clara. I expect to see you at home later. It wasn't a request. It sounded almost like a command spoken with the authority of a man used to being obeyed. Clara Tum felt a mix of irritation and something else, something that made her heartbeat faster. Maybe she replied, keeping her dignity. Logan paused for a moment, as if he wanted to say more, then turned and left the restaurant, leaving. Clara, slightly trembling. Well, Damien said, sitting down again. That was intense. Your husband seemed possessive. Clara let out a humorless laugh. 3 years of indifference and now possessiveness. Men are strange creatures. Clara. Damien said gently. May I say something? Of course. I saw the way he looked at you. It wasn't just possessiveness. It was desire. Plain and simple. Clara felt her face flush. You're imagining things. No, I'm not. And I also saw the way you looked at him. There's history between you two. Complicated and unresolved. Clara sighed. It's a long story. The best ones always are. Damien said with a knowing smile. But may I say something else? Any man who ignores a woman like you for 3 years is a fool. But a man who finally realizes what he has, well, he might be dangerously determined not to lose it again. The rest of the dinner passed with pleasant conversation about business and opportunities, but Clara couldn't get Logan out of her mind. The way he had looked at her, the intensity in his voice, the raw admission that he cared. By the time Damien Chante brought her home, it was past 11 at night. Thank you for a wonderful evening, Clara said sincerely. It's been a long time since I felt this good. The pleasure was mine, and about the job offer, please consider it seriously. You'd be a perfect fit for my team. Clara Chante nodded as Damien Chante drove away, then turned to face the mansion. All the lights were off, except one. Logan's office. He was waiting for her. Clara entered quietly, but she knew she wouldn't be able to avoid the conversation waiting for them. 3 years of silence had been broken, and there was no going back. She walked up the stairs slowly, each step echoing in the quiet house. As she passed the office, the door opened. Clara. She stopped, but didn't turn around. We need to talk, Logan said. Clara finally turned to face him. Now you want to talk after 3 years? Yes, now. There was something in his voice that made Clara. Pause, a vulnerability she'd never heard before. All right, she said at last. Let's talk. Clara walked into Logan Howe's office, her nerves on edge. The room was classically masculine, dark wood shelves, leather chairs, and a large desk where Hoss Logan spent most of his nights. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out over the city lights. So, Clara said, crossing her arms, you wanted to talk. Logan turned slowly to face her. I want to understand. Understand what you us. How we ended up here. Clara Bell laughed bitterly. 3 years. Logan, you had 3 years to understand anything about me. I know, and I admit I've been neglectful, negligent. Clara repeated in disbelief. You treated me like I was invisible. Logan ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. I didn't know how to act. This marriage, it wasn't my choice. It wasn't mine either. Clara shot back quickly. They looked at each other for a moment, the weight of 3 years of silence between them. Why did you agree to it? Logan finally asked. Clara felt a sharp pain in her chest. You really don't know. I know there was some kind of arrangement between the families, but I never asked for details. Of course you didn't ask. Clara murmured. Why would you? You were getting a quiet, convenient wife. Clara, please help me understand. Clara looked at him for a long moment, then sat down in one of the armchairs. The conversation they had avoided for 3 years was finally going to happen. You want the truth? She said, her voice softer. The truth about why a girl from a humble background married the almighty CEO, Logan Carter. Logan sat in the chair across from her, his eyes fixed on hers. Yes, I want to know everything. Clara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the memories come back. 3 years ago, Clara was sitting at the kitchen table in the modest house where she had grown up in a small town 2 hours from Los Angeles. Her mother, Emma Caldwell, looked nervous, her hands shaking as she flipped through some papers. Her father, Lucas Reed, was pacing back and forth, his face tight with worry. Mom, what's going on? Clara asked, watching them with growing anxiety. Emma Bull exchanged a meaningful glance with Sean. Lucas, before letting out a deep sigh. Clara, sweetheart, we need to talk to you about something very important. You're scaring me. Lucas stopped pacing and sat heavily in the chair next to his daughter. Clara, our business is in serious financial trouble. Clara blinked, confused. Her parents' small accounting firm had always been stable, modest, but enough to support them. What kind of trouble? Debt. Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. A lot of it. We invested everything in expansion. That didn't work out. How much? Lucas swallowed hard. 2 million. Clara felt her blood run cold. 2 million. How is that even possible? We made bad partnerships, risky investments. We trusted the wrong people. Lucas explained, guilt heavy in his voice. What now? Emma continued. We're going to lose everything. The business, the house, our savings. Your father could even face criminal charges. Chapter. Clara felt like the world was collapsing around her. There has to be something we can do. A bank and investor. There is, Lucas said slowly. There is one possibility. What is it? Emma took her daughter's hand. The Carter family. They've been our clients for years. The patriarch, Marcus Blake, made us an offer. What kind of offer? Lucas hesitated. They'll pay off all our debts and give us a fresh start. In exchange for what? In exchange for you marrying their son, Logan. Clara was silent for a long moment, trying to process the words. You're serious? Clara, Emma said, tears in her eyes. I know how this sounds, but it's our only option. You want me to sell myself? Literally, it's not like that. Lucas protested. The Warren Carters are a respected, wealthy family. Logan is young, successful. You'd have a good life, a life I didn't choose. Clara, please. Emma pleaded. If we don't accept, we lose everything. Your father could go to jail. Clara stood up abruptly, walking to the window. Her future was being decided by debts and business deals. What if I say no? The silence that followed was her answer. You already said yes, didn't you? Clara said, turning to face her parents. You've already agreed to it. We needed a quick decision. Lucas admitted. The creditors were closing in. Clara felt a mix of anger and despair. What about what I want, my dreams, my plans? You can keep studying, working. It's just an arrangement. An arrangement. Clara repeated the word, bitter in her mouth. You sold your daughter for $2 million. Clara. It's not like it's exactly like that. Clara exploded. You turned me into a transaction. She ran to her room and locked the door. For hours she cried, caught between fury and hopelessness. How had her life come to this, days later? Clara met Logan for the first time. The meeting was formal, cold, more like a business meeting. He was handsome, polished, but distant. He treated her with professional courtesy, as if they were finalizing a contract. I hope you understand, Logan said during that first meeting. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement between our families. I expect nothing more than discretion and the occasional public appearance. Clara had swallowed her pride and agreed. What choice did she have back to the present? Clara opened her eyes to find Logan watching her closely. So now you know, she said, her voice rough with emotion. Your parents saved my family from ruin, and I was the price. Logan was silent for a long moment, taking in the story. I didn't know the details, he finally said. Of course not. Why would you care? You got a convenient wife who wouldn't interfere with your life. I saved my family from jail and poverty. Everyone won except you, except me. Clara confirmed. I lost my freedom, my dreams, my dignity, all for $2 million. Logan stood and walked over to her, stopping just a few steps away. Clara. I didn't realize how much it cost you. How could you? You never asked. In 3 years, you never once showed any interest in how I felt or what I wanted. And what did you want? Clara looked at him, surprised by the question. I wanted to be loved for who I was, not for what I represented financially. I wanted a real marriage, not a business deal. I wanted to feel valued, not like a burden you had to carry. Logan knelt down in front of her chair, his blue eyes intense. And now, what do you want now? Clara felt tears sting her eyes. Now, I'm not sure anymore. 3 years of being ignored changed me. I got used to feeling invisible, to expecting nothing. But last night, with Damien, last night reminded me what it feels like to be seen, to be appreciated. It was scary and wonderful. Logan reached out, hesitating before touching her face. Clara, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but give me a chance. A chance for what? To start over. To get to know the woman I married, to try and build something real between us. Clara looked at him and for the first time saw vulnerability in his eyes. Why now? Logan. Why try after 3 years? Because I finally see what I've lost. Because I realized I have an extraordinary wife and I was too blind to see it, because the thought of you with another man drives me crazy. Clara felt her heart race, but the pain of those 3 years still weighed heavily on her. I need time, she said at last. 3 years of hurt don't heal overnight. Logan nodded and lowered his hand. I understand. But Clara. Yes, I'm going to fight for you, for us. Even if it takes time, even if it's hard, I won't give up. Clara stood feeling emotionally drained. Good night. Logan. Good night, Sean. Clara Chung. As she left the study, Logan was left alone with the weight of all he had just learned. 3 years wasted. An extraordinary woman ignored. A marriage that could have been real if he hadn't been so blind and arrogant. But now he knew the truth. And he was determined to win the heart of the woman who was his wife on paper, but who needed to truly become his in life. The next morning, Clara woke up to the smell of fresh coffee coming from the kitchen. Strange. Logan always left before she woke up. She came downstairs, curious, and found a scene that left her completely stunned. Chapeau was in the kitchen, not just having coffee, but making breakfast. There were pancakes on the stove, fresh fruit on a plate, and 2 steaming mugs of coffee on the counter. Good morning, he said, turning when he heard her come in. He was dressed casually, jeans and a button-down shirt with no tie, something she had never seen him wear. Good morning, Clara replied cautiously. What's going on? Breakfast. Logan said, simply flipping the pancakes with a surprising amount of skill. You know how to cook? I learned in college. Nothing fancy, but it's edible. Clara stayed in the doorway, watching him with suspicion. Why are you doing this? Logan turned off the stove and faced her fully. Because I want to start over for real this time. Logan. Sit down, he said, gesturing to the counter where he had set 2 places. Please. Clara hesitated, but curiosity got the best of her. She sat down watching as he served the warm pancakes. "Thank you," she murmured, still trying to process the surreal moment of having breakfast with her husband for the first time in 3 years. "How did you sleep?" Logan asked, sitting beside her. Clara almost choked on her coffee. "Excuse me. Sleep. How was your night?" "You're actually asking how I slept." Logan paused, realizing how strange such a simple question sounded between them. "Yes, I am, and I plan to keep asking every day." Clara studied his face, looking for any sign that this was some kind of game or manipulation. "Why? Because we're married." "Clara, and I want us to really be married. 3 years." "Logan, you had 3 years to decide that. I know, and I deeply regret every day I wasted." Wakata ate in silence for a few moments, the taste of the pancakes overshadowed by the confusion in her mind. "And what if I say it's too late?" she finally asked. Logan set his fork down and turned fully to face her. "Then I'll prove you wrong." The intensity in his voice sent a chill down Clara's spine. "How? By showing you every single day what kind of husband I can be, what kind of man I can be for you." Clara stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You can't just decide now that you wanted to be a real husband and expect me to go along with it like nothing happened." Logan stood as well, but kept his voice calm. "I don't expect you to go along with it. I hope you'll give me the chance to earn it." "Earn it." Clara gave a short, bitter laugh. "I'm not a prize to be won." Logan: "No, you're not." He agreed, taking a step toward her. "You're my wife, and I was a fool for not valuing that from the beginning." Clara stepped back, but found herself pinned against the counter. "You're confusing me," she admitted, her voice softer. Fell. 3 years of coldness, and now this. I don't know what to believe." Logan took another step, now dangerously close. "Believe this," he said, his voice low. "Believe that I finally woken up, that I finally saw what was right in front of me." Clara could feel the heat radiating from his body, the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something purely masculine. "Logan," she began, but he interrupted. "Cancel. Damien." "What?" "The job he offered you, turn it down." Clara blinked his closeness, making it hard to think clearly. "Why would I do that? Because I want you to work with me." Clara gently pushed him back, creating space between them. "Work with you at Carter Enterprises. You're an expert in emerging markets. We've got projects in Latin America that need exactly your kind of expertise." Clara stared at him, stunned. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering a partnership, professional and personal. This is insane. It's an opportunity." But Clara shook her head and walked away from him. "I don't understand what's going on with you." Logan followed, but kept a respectful distance. "What's going on is I finally realized I've ignored the most extraordinary woman I've ever met, and now I want to make it right. How can I trust this isn't just a phase, that tomorrow you won't go back to ignoring me?" Logan stopped walking, and but Clara turned to face him, because he said, his blue eyes filled with determination, "I can't go back to ignoring you." Last night, watching you have dinner with another man, I realized it would be impossible to pretend you don't exist. Why last night? What changed specifically last night? Logan hesitated, then chose to be completely honest. Jealousy, pure and simple. Seeing another man look at you, touch your hand, make you smile, it drove me crazy. And it made me realize that you're not just my wife on paper. You're mine. The words hung in the air between them. Clara felt something stir in her chest. A mix of anger, pain, and something more dangerous. Yours. She repeated, her voice low and sharp. Mine. Logan confirmed, stepping toward her again. I'm not your property. Logan Carter. No, you're not, he agreed. But you are my wife, and I want you to be my wife in every sense of the word. Clara felt her heart race. There was something in the way he looked at her, an intensity she'd never seen before that was doing strange things to her body. And if I don't want to, she challenged. Logan gave her a slow, almost dangerous smile that made butterflies stir in her stomach. Then I'll just have to change your mind. How, instead of answering? Logan took another step, now close enough that Clara could see the tiny golden flecks in his blue eyes. Starting with this, he whispered, raising his hand to gently touch her face. Clara should have stepped back. She should have said something. But his touch was surprisingly gentle, and she had spent 3 years being ignored. 3 years feeling invisible. Logan, she whispered, but didn't move away. Tell me to stop. He said, his thumb softly tracing her cheek. Clara knew she should. Clara knew she knew this was playing with fire, but the words wouldn't come. You're playing with me, she finally managed. I'm not playing cool. Logan replied seriously. I've never been more serious in my life. They stood like that for a moment, looking at each other, the tension between them growing like electricity in the air. It was Clara who finally stepped back, putting some space between them. I need time to think, she said, her voice shaky. How long? I don't know, days, weeks. You don't just erase 3 years that easily. Logan nodded, but he didn't look discouraged. All right, but while you're thinking, I'm going to keep showing you the kind of husband I can be. Logan. Antoine. Clara. Yes, I'm not giving up. Not this time. With that, he walked out of the kitchen, leaving. Clara, alone, her heart pounding, and her mind a complete mess. Later that day, Clara found flowers in her room. White roses with a simple card to new beginnings. At lunchtime, Logan showed up at home, something he had never done before, carrying Thai food from a restaurant. Clara had mentioned liking years ago. How did he even remember that? That evening, instead of locking himself in his office, Logan invited her to watch a movie in the living room. Clara said no, but she noticed he left the door open and the volume low, as if hoping she might change her mind. For 3 days, the pattern continued. Logan completely changed his routine around Clara. Breakfast together, lunches at home, dinners where he actually talked to her about her day. Clara felt confused, cautious, but also curious. It was like she was getting to know a completely different version of the man she had married. He's really trying. Clara whispered to herself on the third night watching Logan in the living room reading a book instead of working on his laptop. The question was she willing to give him the chance he was asking for, and more importantly, was she willing to risk her heart again? A week had passed since Logan began his efforts to win Clara back. She was still holding back, but she had started to notice little changes in herself, looking forward to breakfast, wondering what they'd talk about over dinner, and catching herself watching him when he wasn't looking. That Friday morning, Clara was in the garden reading when Sophie Lane came over with the cordless phone. Mrs. Jamtul. Carter. There's a man named Damien Cross on the line. He says it's about business. Clara felt a small wave of anxiety. She hadn't spoken to Damien in a week since that dinner that had changed everything between her and Logan. Hello, Damien. Clara. It's so good to hear your voice. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. And you? Great. Listen, I'm calling because I need an answer about our job offer. I've got meetings in New York next week, and I'd really love to have you on the team. Hesitated. Over the past few days, Logan had mentioned more than once the possibility of her working at Carter Enterprises, but she hadn't given a final answer. Damien. I'm still considering my options. Of course I understand. How about we meet today to talk about it? I can swing by and pick you up, maybe lunch, to go over the details. Clara looked toward the house. Logan was in an important meeting and wasn't expected back until the evening. All right. What time? Noon. Perfect. See you soon. Clara. Hung up the phone, unaware that Logan had come home early and overheard part of the conversation from his office window. Logan climbed the stairs with heavy steps, a familiar anger rising in his chest. Damien Cross, again. That man was becoming a persistent problem. All week, Logan had been doing everything he could to win Clara back. He had changed his entire routine, canceled important meetings, just to be home, done everything possible to show her what kind of husband he could be. And now, wow. Damien was back to complicate everything. At 11:00, Logan watched through the window as Clara got ready. She had chosen a yellow dress that made her skin glow, her hair down in soft waves. She looked beautiful, and that only made his irritation worse. When Damien's car arrived, Logan made an impulsive decision. He grabbed his Porsche keys and followed them. Damien took Clara to a fancy restaurant in the center of Beverly Hills. The setting was elegant but not intimate like the first time, which Clara appreciated. So, Damien said after they ordered, "Tell me what's going on. You sounded different on the phone." Clara sighed. Things at home are complicated with Logan. He's changing, or at least pretending to. Damien leaned forward, interested. What do you mean he's decided he wants to be a real husband now? He's doing everything he can to win me over. And that's a bad thing. Clara picked at her food, distracted. I don't know. 3 years of indifference don't just disappear in 1 week. But are you thinking about giving him a chance? I'm confused. Clara admitted. Part of me wants to believe he's really changed. But the part that was ignored for 3 years is afraid it's just a phase. Damien reached across the table and gently covered her hand with his. Clara. Can I be honest with you? Of course. You deserve more than scraps of attention when it suits him. You deserve someone who values you from the very beginning. Clara looked down at their hands touched by Mao. Damien saw sincerity. Thank you. That means a lot to me. That's why my offer still stands. Work with me. Be independent. You don't need to rely on his moods to decide your future. Just then, Clara saw a familiar figure walk into the restaurant. Her blood ran cold. Logan. He walked straight over to their table, his face a mask of controlled coldness. What a coincidence finding you two here. Logan said, his voice dangerously calm. Damien let go of Clara's hand and stood up politely. Logan. What a surprise, I'm sure. Logan replied, his eyes fixed on Cho. Damien's hand still close to Clara's. Logan. Clara said, trying to keep her voice steady. What are you doing here having lunch? Just like you, apparently. The tension at the table was obvious. Other customers had started to glance their way. Why don't you join us? Damien offered, clearly trying to ease the situation. How kind, Logan replied, pulling out a chair and sitting down without waiting for a real invitation. Clara stared at him, stunned by his boldness. Actually, she said, we were having a private conversation. About business, I assume. Logan said, his eyes never leaving her face. Yes, Damien confirmed. I'm trying to convince Clara to accept my job offer. How interesting. Logan said, his tone making it clear he found it anything but interesting. And what kind of job is that? Clara felt her anger rise. The kind that lets me use my education and skills, something you never cared to learn about. Logan turned to her, something sharp in his gaze. I did offer you a position at Carter Enterprises. As a favor. Clara shot back. Damien offered because he sees my professional value. I'm sure he sees plenty of things in you. Logan said, his voice full of insinuation. Damien cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe I should give you two some privacy. No. Clara said quickly. You don't have to go anywhere. Logan stood up abruptly. Actually, he does. Excuse me. Damien asked. You need to stop chasing after my wife. Clara stood too, her face flushed with anger. Chasing. He's offering me a professional opportunity. He's offering more than that, and we all know it. Damien stood as well, clearly offended. Logan, I think you're misunderstanding. Am I? Logan turned to quash Damien, his posture intimidating. You don't think I notice how you look at her? How you find excuses to touch her? Logan, Clara hissed, horrified. It's true. Logan, his voice rising. He's interested in you. Clara, and you're enjoying the attention. Clara felt like she'd been slapped. How dare you? I dare because I'm your husband, on paper. Clara shouted, only on paper. The whole restaurant was now staring at them. Damien placed some money on the table. I think I'd better go, he said quietly. Clara, call me when you decide about the offer. He left quickly, leaving. Clara and Logan staring at each other in the awkward silence. Congratulations. Clara, said her voice shaking with rage. You just publicly humiliated me. You humiliated yourself by letting him touch you like that. Clara took a step closer, her eyes blazing. Who do you think you are? You ignored me for 3 years, and now you act like you have some kind of right over me. I do have rights over you. No, you don't. Clara shouted, not caring about the people watching. You gave up those rights the moment you started treating me like I didn't exist. Logan grabbed her arm, not roughly, but firmly. Let's go. Let go of me. Clara, everyone's staring. I don't care. Let them stare. But Logan was already guiding her out of the restaurant, his hands steady on her back. In the parking lot, away from the curious eyes, Clara yanked her arm free. How dare you? She shouted. How dare you follow me and embarrass me like that? I couldn't help it. Couldn't help what? Seeing you with him, seeing another man touch you, look at you like what? Like he wants you. Logan burst out. Clara stopped shouting, stunned by the intensity in his voice. So what if he wants me? She asked, her voice lower now, but still full of challenge. Trenta. Logan took a step closer, his blue eyes burning with something raw and primal. So what? He repeated. Clara, you're my wife. Then act like my husband. That's what I'm trying to do. By following me, embarrassing me, acting like you own me. Logan ran his hands through his hair, clearly frustrated. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a real husband. I never learned. The raw honesty in his voice caught him by surprise. Clara, too, was startled by the vulnerability in his tone. Then learn, she said, her voice calmer now. But not like this. Logan looked at her and Clara saw something in his eyes that made her forget to breathe for a second. Clara, he said, his voice rough. You have no idea what you're doing to me. What do you mean, bon? Logan took another step closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his body. I mean, you're driving me crazy, completely out of my mind. Clara's heart began to race. There was something in the way he looked at her, an intensity that stirred feelings she hadn't felt in a long time. Logan, you have power over me, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. A power I don't understand. A power I can't control. Really looked at him, and for the first time she didn't see the cold and control CEO. She saw a man who was lost, confused, and deeply in love. Power, she repeated, to make me feel jealous, to make me lose control, to make me want things I didn't even know I wanted. Clara felt a strange wave of satisfaction. After 3 years of feeling invisible, realizing she had that kind of effect on him was intoxicating. "And what do you want?" she asked, her voice softer now. Logan looked at her for a long moment before answering. "You." "Clara, I want you." His words hung in the air between them in the parking lot. Clara felt like the world stopped for just a moment. 3 years of marriage, and it was the first time he'd said those words with that much honesty, with that much feeling. "Logan." She began, but he shook his head. "Don't say anything now. Just think about what I said." They drove home in separate cars, the tension between them still thick in the air. Clara spent the rest of the afternoon in her room trying to make sense of everything that had happened. His words echoed in her mind. "I want you." It wasn't just physical desire she'd heard in his voice. It was something deeper, something desperate. The next morning, Clara came downstairs for breakfast, expecting to see Logan, but he was already gone. Sophie Lane told her he'd left early for a business meeting that would take all day. Clara felt an unexpected wave of disappointment. She'd gotten used to having breakfast with him, to his steady attention. Around 3:00 in the afternoon, her phone rang. It was Damien. "Clara, I hope you don't mind me calling. I wanted to apologize for what happened yesterday." "Damien, you don't need to apologize. I should be the one apologizing for Logan's behavior. Can I be honest with you?" "Of course." "He's in love with you. Completely gone. I know the signs." Clara's heart skipped a beat. "You think so, I'm sure of it. The question is, how do you feel about it?" Clara was quiet for a moment, confused. 3 years. Damien. 3 years of distance. And now, I don't know. He's different. Really different. "Clara, may I suggest something?" "Yes. Why don't you have dinner with me tonight, just as friends?" "Logan can come too if he wants. Maybe it'll help all of us clear the air." Clara hesitated. "I don't know if that's a good idea. I'll be at Giovanni's at 8. If you change your mind, just send me a message. At 7. Clara Mark was getting ready when she heard Logan Kw's Porsche pull into the driveway. Her heart jumped. She had decided to go to dinner with Damien, but now she wasn't sure it was the right choice. She walked downstairs in an elegant black dress, determined to keep her independence. Logan was in the living room, still in his suit, but without the tie. When he saw her, he stopped in his tracks. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you." Heading out, Clara took a deep breath. "I'm going to have dinner with Damien." Logan didn't move for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I see. You understand? You're testing me." Logan said, his eyes locked on hers. "You want to see if I'll lose control again?" Clara was caught off guard by how perceptive he was. "And will you?" Logan walked up to her, stopping just a breath away. "Yes, Bshul," he said. "I'm going to hate every minute of it. I'll be imagining him making you laugh, touching your hand, looking at you the way only I should." Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. But Logan continued, I'm not going to follow you. I'm not going to make a scene because I trust you. You trust me. You're an honorable woman. Clara, you always have been. If leaving with me is what you truly want, then one night with another man won't change that. Clara looked at him, moved by the maturity of his response. And what if I decide I want to leave with him? Logan closed his eyes for a moment, like the question physically hurt. Then I'll have to accept that I missed my chance. There was a vulnerability in his voice that almost made Clara cancel the dinner right then and there. Logan, go, he said, stepping back. But, Clara, yes. Remember what I told you yesterday. Remember that I want you. Not out of convenience, not out of duty, because you're extraordinary, and I was a fool not to see that sooner. Clara arrived at Giovanni's with a heart full of conflict. Damien was already there, as elegant as always. Oh, Clara. You came, he said, kissing her hand politely. I did, but... Damien, we need to talk. Of course, let's sit down. Once they were seated, Clara got straight to the point. You were right about Logan. He's in love with me. Damien smiled. And you? How do you feel about that? Confused, scared. But I think I'm in love with him too. Damien nodded like he had expected that answer. Then why are you here with me? Clara sighed. Because I don't know if I can trust these feelings. 3 years is a long time to be ignored and then suddenly told you're loved. But people change. Clara. Sometimes it takes almost losing someone to realize what they mean to us. Are you encouraging me to stay with my husband? Damien laughed. I'm being realistic. That man is hopelessly in love with you and you with him. I'm just a catalyst in this story. A catalyst I'm the one who made. Logan realize how he felt. Without the competition, he might never have woken up to what he had right in front of him. Clara looked at Damien with new respect. You're a very wise man and you're a very loved woman. The question is, what will you do with that? While they talked, Clara didn't notice someone entering the restaurant. Logan had decided he couldn't stay home imagining what might be happening. He walked to the bar, ordered a whiskey, and watched from a distance. To his surprise, he didn't see Damien trying to seduce his wife, but rather a serious conversation between two friends. Excuse me, a voice said next to him at the bar. Logan turned and saw Damien. Cross. Logan, mind if I join you? Logan gestured to the stool beside him. Clara, in the restroom. I thought this was a good chance for us to talk about the fact that you're a very lucky man. Logan looked at him puzzled. Your wife is an extraordinary woman, smart, loyal, strong, and completely in love with you. How can you be sure? Because she spent the whole evening talking about you, about how you've changed, how confused she is, and how she's in love and scared all at once. Logan felt something shift in his chest. She said that not in those exact words, but that's what I heard. Logan, can I give you some advice? Go ahead. Stop being afraid to give yourself fully. She needs to know you won't walk away from her again. Logan nodded, taking it in. And what about your job offer? Damien smiled. Withdrawn. She belongs at Carter Enterprises. And with you. When Clara came back from the restroom, she found the two men talking calmly at the bar. "What's going on here?" she asked, confused. Logan stood and walked over to her. "Damien and I reached an understanding." "What kind of understanding?" "I'm a lucky fool," Logan said, his eyes locked on hers, "and I'm not going to waste a second chance." Clara looked between the two men. "Damien, I'll leave you two to talk." "Damien said, grabbing his coat. "Clara, it was a pleasure meeting you." Logan, "Take good care of her." Once Damien left, Clara turned to Logan. "What are you doing here? I couldn't stay home picturing you with another man. But you said I trusted you, and I do, but that doesn't mean it was easy." Clara stepped toward him. "Logan, let's go home," he said gently. "We need to talk for real this time." Clara nodded, and they left the restaurant together. In the car, the tension was thick but different. It wasn't anger or frustration. It was anticipation. "Clara," Logan said as he drove, "when we get home, I'm going to tell you everything. Everything I feel. Everything I want. Everything I hope for us." Clara felt her heart race. "And what if I said I want to tell you everything too?" Logan glanced at her quickly, then looked back at the road. "Then we're in for a very long night." Inside the mansion. Clara Mamata and Logan stood by the entrance, looking at each other. The air was heavy with tension and anticipation. 3 years of silence were about to be broken forever. "Clara," Logan said gently, "before anything else, there's something I need you to know." "What is it? I love you." The words hung between them. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. Logan, "No. Let me finish," he said, stepping closer to her. "I love you in a way I never thought was possible. I fell in love with the strong woman you are, with the grace you showed even when I was cold, with the intelligence I was too blind to see a tear rolled down." Clara cheek. "3 years," she whispered. "3 years I waited to hear those words, and I'm a fool for taking this long to say them." Logan reached out and gently touched her face. "Bon." "Clara, I know I don't deserve it, but could you love me too?" Clara looked at him through her tears, seeing real vulnerability in his eyes for the first time. "I already love you," she confessed. "I think I always did, even when you ignored me. Even when it hurt so much, I wanted to give up." Logan closed his eyes as if her words brought him physical relief. "Clara," this time she stepped forward, placing her hands on his face. "Kiss me," she whispered. Logan didn't need another word. He leaned in and kissed her softly at first, then deeper as Clara, responded. It was their first real kiss. In 3 years of marriage, they had never kissed with love, with longing, with the hope of a future together. When they pulled apart, both were breathing heavily. "Tata, Clara," Logan whispered against her lips. "I want to be your husband truly in every way." Clara felt her heart race. I want that too. Logan took her hand and led her upstairs to the bedroom she had never entered before the master suite. The room was elegant, masculine, but welcoming. Clara looked around, suddenly nervous. Clara, Logan said, noticing her hesitation. If you're not ready. It's not that, she said quickly. It's just, Logan, there's something you need to know. What is it? Clara took a deep breath, trying to gather courage. We never. Logan frowned, confused. Clara, what are you trying to say? I'm a virgin. She blurted out, the words rushing out. Logan froze completely, as if struck by lightning. What did you say? I'm a virgin? Clara repeated, softer this time. Logan stared at her, clearly in shock. Clara, we're married. On paper, she reminded him. We never, you barely spoke to me, let alone. Logan ran a hand through his hair, trying to take it in. My God, Clara, you're 25. I know how old I am, but how? Why? Clara sat down on the edge of the bed, suddenly feeling exposed. Before I married you, I was focused on school and work, and after the wedding, well, you made it pretty clear you weren't interested in me. Logan knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his own. Clara, I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I never even imagined. How could you? You never asked me anything about my life before the marriage. Logan closed his eyes, overwhelmed by guilt. Do you hate me? No. Clara said softly. I don't hate you, but I need you to understand. Tonight, if it happens, it'll be my first time with anyone. Logan looked at her, something shifting in his expression. Clara, are you sure I can wait? We can wait. Clara touched his face. I've waited 3 years to truly be your wife. I don't want to wait any longer. With infinite tenderness. Logan kissed her again, this time with a reverence Clara had never known. With patience, care, and love, Logan turned that night into the most beautiful and intimate experience Clara could have ever imagined. Top 2. Clara woke up to the smell of coffee and something sweet nearby. She slowly opened her eyes and found herself in Tapu, Logan's bedroom, now theirs, with the morning sun filtering through the curtains. Good morning, my wife, a soft voice said. Clara turned and saw Logan walking into the room with a tray full of food. There were fresh croissants, fruit coffee, orange juice, and even a small rose in a vase. Logan, she said, sitting up in bed. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, he said, placing the tray down and sitting beside her. I wanted to do something special for the most important woman in my life. Clara felt her heart warm. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had ignored her for 3 years. How are you feeling? He asked, gently touching her face. Different, Clara admitted. Complete. Logan smiled and kissed her gently. I don't regret anything, Clara said. Neither do I. Actually, I regret waiting so long. They had breakfast in bed, talking and laughing like they never had before. It felt like two strangers getting to know each other, but with the deep connection of people who had always been close. In the days that followed, Clara saw a complete change in son. Logan. He canceled meetings to be with her, took her to places in Los Angeles she had never seen, and most importantly, he talked to her about everything. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Clara finally asked the question that had been on her mind. Logan, why were you so distant before? Even before we got married, people said you were cold. Logan was quiet for a moment, then sighed. My family, he said at last, I was raised by the Carters. You know my father, Marcus Blake. Everything was about business, money, success. My mother, she cared more about appearances than her own children. Clara turned to face him. I was never taught about love or real relationships. Everything was a transaction, a strategy. When our marriage was arranged, I treated it like any other deal. And now, Logan took her hand, interlacing their fingers. Now I know I was completely wrong. I've learned that love isn't a weakness. It's the strongest thing there is. Who taught you that? You did, he said, looking her straight in the eyes, watching your strength, your dignity, your ability to love even when it wasn't returned. Felt tears in her eyes. Clara. I know that 3 years of distance don't just go away. I know you're still afraid I'll go back to how I was. It was true, even with all the changes part of Cham. Clara still feared it might not last. I am afraid, she admitted. I'm afraid that once the newness fades, you'll start ignoring me again. Logan turned fully toward her, gently holding her face in his hands. Clara Carter, look at me, she did. I swear to you on my life and on our love that I will never treat you like that again. You've changed who I am at the deepest level. There's no going back. How can I be sure? Because Mahompun. Logan said, you're not just a win for me. You're my redemption, my second chance to be the man I should have been from the beginning. In the days that followed, Logan's house proved his words with actions. He was present, attentive, protective, but not possessive. When Clara decided to take on an independent consulting project, he fully supported her. Are you sure? Clara asked. I'll be working with your competitors sometimes. I'm sure, Logan said. I want you to be happy and fulfilled. Your success is my success. Their physical relationship also deepened. Logan was patient, affectionate, always making sure. Clara felt loved and respected. Every kiss, every touch, every intimate moment was a confirmation of the love they shared. One night as they lay together after another evening of closeness, Clara finally said the words she'd been holding back. I trust you. Logan turned to face her. Really, really completely with my heart, my life and our future. Logan kissed her deeply, and I promised never to break that trust. Clara knew he meant it. The cold, distant man she had married 3 years ago was completely gone, replaced by someone who loved her with honesty and intensity. For the first time in 3 years, Clara felt truly married, truly loved, truly whole. 2 months had passed since Chono Clara and Logan had truly begun their marriage. They were happier than they ever thought possible. And Clara had started her consulting work, and Logan supported her in every project. Their love grew stronger every day. Then on a Tuesday morning, everything changed. Clara was organizing some papers in Logan's office when she found a folder that had fallen behind the desk. Curious, she opened it to see if it contained important documents that needed to be filed. What she saw made her sink into the chair. They were contracts, detailed merger contracts between Clara's parents' company, James Accounting, and Carter Enterprises. The dates were from 3 years ago, right around the time of their wedding. With trembling hands, Clara read each page. The agreement was clear. Their marriage would secure the merger of the two companies. The James family would keep 20% of the new business, receive a large cash payment, and Logan would take full control of operations. This can't be. Clara murmured, feeling a wave of nausea rise in her stomach. She kept reading and found something even worse. There were clauses about children public appearances and how the marriage had to last at least 5 years to ensure the stability of the merger. Clara was literally part of a business contract. The door opened and Logan walked in smiling when he saw her. Clara, you won't believe how productive the meeting was. Clara, are you okay? Clara stood up slowly, holding the contracts. Can you explain this to me? She asked, her voice strangely calm. Logan looked at the papers and Clara saw the color drain from his face. Clara, let me explain. Explain what? That our marriage was a business contract. That I'm just part of a corporate merger. It's not like that. It's not. Clara gave a bitter laugh. It's right here in black and white. Clause 5. The marriage between Logan Carter and Clara James will ensure the full acquisition of James Accounting by Carter Enterprises. Logan reached out to her. Clara stepped back. Clara, please let me explain the context. What context? You knew this from the beginning. I knew about the merger. Yes, but what? Thought I was too stupid to find out. Thought you could use me forever without me ever learning the truth. Clara, you're misunderstanding. Clara threw the contracts onto the table. Am I? Then tell me. Logan, what part am I misunderstanding? The part where our marriage helped you take over my family's business? Or the part